All right, thanks everybody. We're just getting started for our options seminar. Really been wanting to do this for a long time, and it's kind of a shift I made at the beginning of the year to spend a lot more time on the options market. Traditionally, I'm a stock trader, futures trader to a lesser extent, crypto trader, crypto wader right now, and now I've been trading options for a long time. I actually started out on the options floor in Philadelphia in '87 as a CRT operator. They were trading tech options and options on the tech stocks as well as currencies. It's pretty interesting. It was way back before electronic. It was '87, '88. In this seminar, I'm going to highlight the harmonic pattern relationships that define the reaction segments, the type 1, type 2 situations that we're going to use in the stocks with the option charts. We're going to optimize the execution strategies with multiple time frames. We compare 5-minute versus 60 or daily. And then we want to see similar relationships on the options. I'll explain why. Because the option chart is the ultimate realization of where the move, whatever the price segment is, going to truly happen. Then the couple of ideas, general ideas, strategies, and then some specific strategies on maximizing profit objective. We're going to use automatic and discretionary targets. We'll talk about that in a bit. So the tools that I'm using, just want everybody to know what I think you should be set up with. It's not mandatory, other than I would say everyone should have HPC for TradingView. I'm working with the option charts from eSignal. Interactive Data is the arm of ICE, Intercontinental Exchange. They're the data source. And then I'm executing options off of Thinkorswim. I saw some of you guys said Tasty Trade. It doesn't, there's not, I don't think it's mandatory to have one or the other, except for having HPC tools. If you can get options data on Ninja, Sierra, or MetaTrader, I still say use HPC TradingView because we're comparing underlying stocks with the option charts. There's more information on the Gold Members page. Anyone has questions or wants to get hooked up with that, Gold Members page. So check it out. We really need to take options on a different level. A lot of people, I think, are somewhat complacent. I think most people, starting in with trading in general, are complacent. Big reason why they lose. With options, I can't stress it enough, and I'll stress it 10 times more, that you need patience, preparation, and practice. How you're going to lose, because you're going to encounter losers. This is a market where it is either win or lose. You're lucky if you can break even, and a lot of time that can even be frustrating. But how you will lose is no preparation, patience, or practice. And think about it this way. I want to stress it. Anyone who's not trading options right now, you're not allowed to trade until at least 2 to 4 weeks after digesting this material. Before putting it into play, I want everyone to take that time. Okay, preparation. If you're not trading options, you don't have an options account, minimum take 30 days. If you are trading options, I still say take 2 weeks. Digest, analyze, assess the strategies, follow a couple of things, let a couple of 3x, 5x winners happen, identify them, and then start to trade them. So anybody that's here now, you're probably not trading until mid-late July, and we're going to have earnings coming up, so that's a great time frame to get prepared. But that's the scenario. If you're not willing to make that preparation and take that time, you're going to lose. So we want to ideally follow the scenarios and gain the experience so we have an idea of expectations. Here's yesterday, okay? NVIDIA from Discord. And I'll show you this timestamp too. But this is the general gist of our strategy for harmonic patterns. pattern in the underlying, minimum 5-minute time frame. Our best options are type 2 on the 5-minute for the stock or the ETF, if it's a QQQ or SPY, with a similar pattern, okay, in a strike price that is at least 1 to 3 strikes away. And we'll talk about what that is. But, you can trade options without the option chart, but the best opportunities come when we've got harmonic patterns in both underlying and the contract. And this is yesterday. This is NVIDIA, the 410s. And we were also looking at the 420s. Those are the 410s. Those are the 420s. Okay, 410, butterfly pattern on the 5-minute. Your terminal bar was 256. Okay, traded slightly under 250. Your 127 levels, generally 270 is the number with target 1 to 395. And the other chart here, the 420s, at 53 cents, it was the hop. 60 cents was the ABCD. Okay, 109 is the target. I was showing people as we started where we are now because these all worked out incredibly well. These were live posted in the Discord. Let me just show really quick. These are from yesterday. So this isn't, hand-picked opportunities. There's yesterday, 3 p.m. And that is something where I'll show the last 2 or 3 things that I posted are the stuff we will discuss that all worked out this morning. Microsoft was another. But here's the NVIDIA calls. Those are check it out. So NVIDIA 420 calls that were 53 to 60 cents, 65 cents, hit $4 this morning. Trading 320 at the moment. You're probably done with that trade, quite frankly. I'll get into some reasons why you would be out of that trade. But this is what we're looking for. This is the goal, okay? It's not every time, but this is the goal, and this is the advantage of why we're bringing these together to capture these kind of moves. Really quick, let me show you guys the NVIDIA 410s that were 260, 270, now $11. How are we doing? What do we think of this? That's a 5x. You've got the whole day. So these contracts expire. Okay, they expire 4 o'clock today. It's a long time to go. We are 10:05. As I said, we're going to go probably 2 hours, maybe even 3 up to 1 o'clock, depending on what kind of opportunities we get. Market ended up being a big move today. But this was all posted in advance. And I really think it's representative of when we get it right, we get these kind of moves. There's other considerations of positioning, size, time frames, strike prices, yes. But this is the general expectation, and all of that was posted yesterday in our Gold member Discord. Check that out, and we're going to be doing a lot more of those kind of options like this. Now, let's get back to that presentation and just walk through a couple of those charts. So again, that's from yesterday, and our positioning achieved. What we're trying to identify, the harmonic pattern recipe for options is a daily assessment. What's the trend? What are the significant harmonic patterns setting up on a daily? That's a general. We know the market's been up, okay, but specifically we're looking for those 60-minute phenomenon, harmonic strength index, or pattern structures that affirm that longer term time frame. But the key is the 5-minute. It's a 5-minute on the stock or the ETFs like the QQQ or the SPY. What kind of patterns happening there? And then on the option contract, we want to see Similar pattern formations, signaling with confirmation that it's 1 to 3 strikes. 1 to 3 strikes away from the current price. And then as far as execution, we want confirmation in the same way that we look for other setups. We're looking for the HSI executed after the 5-minute is triggered. A lot of that has to do with the fact that after those signals click, then we're already hitting it at a point where the inflection has occurred, and we've already started that move to the target. So this all comes down to everyone's ability to understand and quickly react to harmonic pattern framework strategies. This is going to be a quick review. There are webinars on the Gold Members page. And also, I think it's important that some of the basic understandings, if you're not clear on the pattern framework or type 1, type 2 terminology, take the time to study that. That's your objective between now and the next 2 weeks before earnings season, so that you understand that really you're almost acting on automatic knowledge with the comprehension so deep that you're not even second thinking that. But we're looking for the type 1, which that begins with the terminal bar, immediate completion of the harmonic pattern. That's the reaction. That's the first move. The type 2 return, we know that's after the first move, returns hits the test, and then we're looking for that secondary test. Why is that sequence so important? Because we're triggering options off of essentially type 2 5-minute patterns. That's the best. I mean, we can go with type 1 moves as long as we manage them properly, but it tells us what, when, where, how to treat the move, the position. We know it's a reaction. We're aggressive in the management. Even if it's a reversal, we're still aggressive in the management, but we know we have a larger expectation, like the NVIDIA trade. Here's the other trade from yesterday. Okay, here's Microsoft. That's the chart. That was the type 2 that we identified. That's the kind of pattern we're looking for and entering after the retest of the type 2. Here's Microsoft. Again, the illustration of what Microsoft did, what every type 2 should be, and we should be here at the retest of the pattern, at least on the underlying in our most ideal situations. Then we know we have a potential for a larger move on the 5-minute with confirmation, that can set us off for even more. Here's Microsoft from yesterday. It was the first test. I took a shot on some options. It was basically a scratch. Even though it went up, I was looking around 334 level. We had a crab at 333.40. But I knew that was just a type 1 reaction, and I said so. And I said, okay, look for that retest. That's set up for later in the day for perfect kind of option strategy where, here you go. The Microsoft 340s, folks, were 50 cents yesterday. 50 cents at that time. Again, what can we take away from it? It's a clear type 2 on the option pattern as well. There's the option chart. And when we came down here yesterday, I was looking at the 72-cent level because it was a hop retest. But I knew it was a type 2. Look, type 1 went from initial test, yes, sloppy, but perfect move to target 1, straight back down. And it gave us an insanely perfect type 2 pattern that actually closed at 26 cents yesterday. And that is a tricky part of some option drawdown. But if you're somewhere around 50 cents and you go to 26, it's a 50% move. I'll discuss how to minimize that pain. A lot of the drawdown, especially early on when you're trading options, comes down to limiting size until you build winners. So small size, small exposure with sizable winners, and stack 4, 5, 7, 8 of those trades before you start to really size up. I'll get into that in a minute, but this turned into this. So those 440s on Microsoft, 340s on Microsoft turned into this. Now 190. Okay. I mean, I'm done with this trade, and this thing probably could still move, but you get the picture of what I'm saying here. These are the kind of opportunities you have. And look at the 340 was off of the crab pattern. Why not go to target 2 at 220? The same type of thinking of the harmonic pattern framework is in play. Now, today, again, I'll be the first to admit that this is what we're looking for. This is what we're trying to achieve. This is a great day. They're great positions that moved today, and everything that we did in advance yesterday is the recipe, is the process of identifying these type of short-term major option plays where you're already, you're 7x off the low and a reasonably 4 or 5x from execution price. So be mindful that this is really something, putting these two things together, having an understanding of the framework. I think this is starting to put together the major moves and options where, hey, upfront capital required, not a lot. You could take small losses on trades, okay, and stay small to build your winners, but you only need to hit a couple of winners to build a nice cushion that if you're losers, you have a couple of losers, they're small. So be mindful of that. Let's go back to a couple more of these. I mean, this is starting to really explode. So there's Microsoft again. That's yesterday, 333, and just to note, that once we hit the XA level at 333.41, that's really the starting point and defines the type 2. The other thing is that I'm looking at both real-time hours only and extended hours. So just be aware of that. Okay, even these patterns like this action in the pre-market for Microsoft, that included extended hours trading to define the setup, but it works that way. So use it. And then again, there's the call premiums, what we posted yesterday. So let's talk about how to choose the option markets to trade. What markets, what strikes? For now, for this presentation, what we're really talking about are trading options on those top 20 markets, okay, the Apples, the Microsofts, the Teslas. You guys don't have to force it. The top 20 largest volume positions and that have sufficient volumes in the strikes. I'm talking where it's, open interest is 10,000 or at least 1,000. And these give you the liquidity necessary for this precise short-term strategy. So don't complicate it. Look at what's moving: Tesla, Apple, Nvidia, Meta. And then I'm going to talk about I already mentioned this in the beginning, but there's another kind of level of option strategies. Things I mentioned, Rivian and some of the other low floater type positions, great harmonic patterns. How do we use those with longer term plays? And I said that in July, I'm going to do a follow up probably in about 2 weeks where we'll look at those type of options. They employ the monthly or the quarterly longer term options, but we're going to use it in a similar way as we do with the short term time frame. So our harmonic pattern option strategy, our time frames that I mentioned that we want to require that have harmonic pattern phenomenon on them must include daily 60-minute, even if it's just an HSI signal. But as I mentioned, we're looking to execute based on the 5-minute phenomenon. The 5-minute patterns in the stock with the option price give us kind of that optimization. And just be aware that one of the reasons why options are so difficult is that if we don't get the directional move, okay, we're going to face that time decay, time factor with these markets where we're looking for the stocks to have a type 2. It's the primary reason why your 5-minute patterns mostly need to be type 2 situations, or at least big type 1s with confirmation. The type 2 5-minute that optimizes really the overall move before we can expect that larger target 2. But then the option contract, that's really tells us exactly where. That minimizes that rate of decline in the time value. It really is a killer. If you don't get it right in terms of price and time, you're going to pay. Now, let's talk about the strike price, because this is probably the most difficult assessment. You know, the stock's trading at $100. Do we buy the $100 strike, the 105, 110? As we've seen in Microsoft and Nvidia today, we had some really big moves on a percentage basis that are 2, 3 strikes out. At least I want to look for 1 strikeout. I think in the money calls, yes, they can move and be sizable, but if they don't work out, your overall capital investment in those in the money call options you just seem to be overpaying. I think it's, since there's so much risk to time decay and we have to get it right, it's better to speculate on those 1 to 3 strike prices, 1 to 3 strikes out. And again, we're looking at weekly options. So if it's a Friday expiration like today, or next Friday, that would be the furthest out for these kind of strategies, about 5 days or less. Now, there's different weekly opportunities. Like yesterday was a real ideal situation with today's expiration, end of the month expiration, end of the week expiration. Those can help. And we actually were selling off yesterday and completing a couple of bullish retests. That's why this was a real ideal morning to look at those examples. Now, what's coming up are earnings opportunities where I'm going to really get into trading options based on these earnings announcements in a way I never have. So starting really second week of July, quarterly earnings will be commencing, and then you really get into it the second half of July into early August, and then that'll be it. I mean, that'll be it in terms of news like that for a while. But what we want to look for on the earnings, just again, we're going to use these weekly short-term strategies with eyeing up earnings announcements 2 to 5 days ahead of time. So stay tuned. And again, we're going to be really doing that a lot more in the Discord, targeting individual companies. So a few mental perspective strategies about options trading, because the risk, the leverage is increased. The risk is a greater factor for a complete loss than, say, I think stocks, probably by a factor of 5. But if we're getting our analysis right, okay, we're not really dealing with drawdown. And if we are right, like I said, in all 3 of the situations we looked at, looking at today, we get those big kind of moves, you just kind of, it doesn't take long to create a sizable profit cushion to really gain confidence. But while you're gaining that confidence, you have to let go of all of the fear, the FOMO. We're waiting for the setup. We're being as disciplined as any market, if not more so. And we're only going for those multiple conditions that are satisfied. Pattern on a 5-minute, type 2 on a 5-minute, pattern on the option. As I said when I started the session, anybody that's new to options or you're not trading options currently, please, by all means, take the next 2-3 weeks. Get up to speed, get yourself set up with the tools that you need, but follow through a couple of setups. For example, next Friday, you should be in front of your screens analyzing these setups that play out into the Friday expiration. We have a holiday week next week, so really trading won't even begin until Wednesday of next week. But we should be, I think it's going to create another short-term window where we go from Wednesday to Friday. The options will move, the weekly options, the Friday expirations. And then finally, something I believe firmly, especially with options, is that got to be the meeting of being ready to trade the market when the market's ready to be traded. And so we have to be fully engaged with no distractions. And I say this so for those that don't have the full-time commitment, they're not able to be in front of their screen to watch the entire position. I'm still going to urge you to take time. Don't trade options until you can make the time to be in there. You can day trade, and have an option of 4 to 6 hour window, especially for those folks that are part-time traders. But again, don't rush into this. That's the essence. You're going to lose money if you do. Now, here's a couple of trade management considerations that I employ with this entire strategy, with this short-term harmonic pattern strategy, that I'm always thinking in terms of automatic and discretionary ideas of, okay, if the option premium moves so far, what do I do? Probably the number one thing that I do that prevents me from losing and secures profits is I look to sell half as soon as I'm doubled the position. It's like 90% of all situations this works out. Your fear is that if you sell half the position and then it does a 10x move, well, you missed out. No, what it really is about the collection of trades of 50 or 100 trades where you immediately secured the double or more than the double that pays for the trade, gives you your money back, and the rest of it rides for free. Other consideration, small size. Start with small sizes. Maybe 2 contracts is keep one, sell one, automatically manage the other one. You can increase your contracts after you win 5, 7, 10 trades, but only until that time. But go slow. The other thing about the small size is that if we're right and we get the analysis and the opportunities put together properly, as we saw in NVIDIA and Microsoft, we don't need a heck of a lot of money. A couple $100 that turns into a 5x move, and you do that a few times, you're then trading on profits. You're not trading on original capital. And that's important with the way options move and the kind of leverage that you can realize off of these markets. Just as a side note, I know a lot of people that are brand new ask me how much of them do they need to commit. I think most option minimums are 2,000, but I think 10,000 is a really good amount if you can do that and still go slowly. Other considerations, when we're looking at loss assessments, All right, if our option contract loses 50% of the value, especially if we are, if we're facing expiration, we don't want things to go to a total loss. About 50% generally is the limit that I'm going to look for sustaining drawdown or allow. The other thing is that I don't go into, I don't accumulate the position all at once either. I'm usually 10 to 20 contracts, no matter what it is. And I'll usually go in 2, 3 initially, and then size up 7, 8, 10 at a time. As we've seen with these setups, identification is the absolute key. That's why we're going to go slowly initially, but you have to get that identification of the markets lined up properly. One final note about losers, and this is good for, I think, if you're starting out new again with any harmonic pattern strategy, you lose 3 in a row, you got to take a step back. So if you have a problem, if you're not identifying winners, first of all, give yourself some time. But if you are identifying winners and then they don't work out, like 3 in a row, you got to step back, take more time, assess what's going on. Why did you make that decision? What was there? Let's go back to NVIDIA. Let's follow up on Microsoft and look at the QQQ opportunities from yesterday, because again, we started with NVIDIA and Microsoft. Here's the Microsoft layout. Check out the Microsoft Type 2. We talked a little bit about this when we started. Okay. Perfect Type 2 that came together, and I showed you why I even identified in the Discord yesterday that Type 2 had to come back to the 330, 340 level. And we wait for that. Even if that was not going to happen, we would still have to wait for that, because that's the optimization. That's why we use the software for TradingView and eSignal, multiple data feeds confirming, but we can easily run the stock with the option contract. The option contract for the 340s. I know it's probably difficult to look at something that's declining in a ugly day yesterday, and then you look at this right-hand chart, look at the option contract. Hop levels at 28 cents. Target 2 is at 77. You don't really feel too confident about it, but everything that you need to see is there. I mean, check it out. There's the 335s. And this was the work from yesterday where it was a perfect Type 2 confirmation that even the ABCD was perfectly tagged at 125 with an expectation. Why is it a Type 2? It's the retest, and we go to target 2. So we're not thinking, when you're down here at 125, 150 area, you're not thinking 239, you're thinking 314. And now, that's, what are those? 12? 10? I'll get to that in a second. And then here was yesterday on the QQQ. Now, this is a perfect example of being aware of a larger time frame. This was on a 60-minute. That was a 60-minute HSI check back. And I posted that yesterday of saying, look, this is an area we want to look for markets to turn around and move. There you go. Now the Qs are 370. 362.49. What we had here on the Qs yesterday on the 5-minute was a Type 2 shark. It's remarkable. But over and over and over again, I think you guys get the point of the phenomenon that I'm trying to identify. The Type 2 5-minute, make sure you got something 60-minute or daily, and then, option contracts. The 366. And that was another ABCD at 78. It bottomed at 50. You're looking for 208. Okay, that's now 6, 7. Go to those in a second here. Let me go to that. Let me I'll pull up that here. Oh, there's Microsoft. There's the 340s on Microsoft, now trading 260. And the 335s. There you go. There's 7. Down here, there you go. ABCD at 125. Now 7. Here's the QQQ. The 366s. There you go. They have $4. 4 and change. And listen, even for the QQQ, that's the kind of thing we're looking for. You know, today's a strong day, Friday into the close. Why not? Keep going. But it's a clear type 2 confirmation, everything we would look for, even if it was a stock or crypto for that matter. Look at Microsoft, 342. That's new highs. Couple more. Let me go through a few more slides. Come back to this really quick on the Qs. Come back to this yesterday's slide at 366. Down here at the type 2, obviously, it's almost a full, you're almost sitting there saying you're either going to have a big update tomorrow or even, and that's it. I mean, you're looking for a larger move. We got that in the pre-market, but down here at 50 cents looking for 208, I would still, if let's say just taking 2 contracts, 2. And I think everyone could start out with 2 contracts where 2 contracts, $100 and change. You know, maybe you're buying that ABCDs at 78, your full retest confirmation, maybe you're 65, call it 75 cents even. It's a $150 trade, 150 bucks. If you're wrong, you're probably losing 75. If you're right, okay, you're you know, at least going to probably do somewhere where 300, maybe as much as even 600 to a full target move. Okay, but that's your window of understanding and expectation, because these expire tomorrow, is you know, you pretty much need to be right either by the end of the day yesterday, or you see that follow through into this morning like we did, like big up move, big pre-market and follow through. QQQ is now up 6. That's a remarkable move for the Qs. SPY's up 48. And even stuff like NVIDIA, well, I'll get to that in a second. That's now up 15, where those contracts are now insane. Check this out. Let's go back to the NVIDIA. Remember NVIDIA? Here's from yesterday. It's what I started with today. This was the NVIDIA post from yesterday. 5-minute bat pattern. And then we had the 410s and we had the 420s. 420s, I think, were, there's the 10s, there's the 20s. The 20s were 60 cents. Now 5. And let's come back to that really quick. There's the NVIDIA 10s, 410s. Trading 14 at the high. 271, but that's the kind of explosion you're playing for on your home run trades, and that's a home run trade. Typically, I'd be really happy on something like that, even if we went from 270 area to call it $4. I would have been real happy today if that only went 50%. You're buying 2 contracts. It's probably a $600 investment, and you're looking to sell it for 2 or 3 grand. But instead, you're up here where you're almost 4x, 5x of that. It's 2,400, and still have all day. I mean, folks, 10:38. Okay, we've been in here about 40 minutes or so far. We've got all day. I don't see too many things pulling back. I mean, this could just be something where we just continue all day. Eyes on Tesla, Meta, any kind of a pullback. I also looking at something like maybe Intel. Yeah, there's Intel. Maybe Amazon. I do want to look at a couple of opportunities. Intel right now is a 5-minute crab type 2. But the plan here is to go for about another 90 minutes to top of the hour. I'll take some questions and I'll respond to that from stuff from the chat. So if you have a comment or question, put it into the chat and see if we can't find at least something from now into the end of the day that we can take advantage of. For those that have the software, you guys have any opportunities? I'll take a look at suggestions. I'll look at those too. But we do have the holiday. Typically, I would say if we've got a setup, we might even want to look for something for next Friday. But because next week, Monday and Tuesday are essentially, Monday's going to be super quiet. Tuesday, market is closed. So a really short week. I wouldn't want to enter any option positions until Wednesday of next week. Let's see, Microsoft. Microsoft? Amazing. Expect some kind of maybe a midday pullback, but like I said, we're still an hour or so away. But the NVIDIA trade, folks, that was the first one I posted yesterday. This is how we get the big winners. And that was when we were looking at that. Okay, that was the 410 was 1 strike away. And here's the NVIDIA 420. The NVIDIA 420s, look at that. They're now $5. That's a 10x from the low. That's a 10x. And we've done this a few times already, just in the last month on these. I think this is probably going to serve as a great reference going forward because I think these kind of opportunities are going to present themselves, especially as we get to the earnings season and we start targeting those earnings announcements, and then even stuff, Friday expirations that are, get oversold too much during the week. That's a great one. I think this is just the NVIDIA trade. Probably not a surprise to many people to see NVIDIA pop like this, and that's why we don't need to complicate it more than the obvious big movers that have been running and will continue to run. You guys know what I think about NVIDIA. One of the things that I'm looking for on NVIDIA and the 60-minute time frame or the daily consideration is that even more so that we're in the midst of a larger 1618 breakout. So not only is the trend up, it's wildly bullish. You've broken out in such dramatic fashion that again, until we really register some new patterns or reach some larger objectives, this continues. That's amazing, that weekly ABCD. Target on NVIDIA, just to let you know, the longer term target, and this is something why I want to discuss the monthly and quarterly option strategies. What kind of options could we buy here on longer term to capture that move, which I think we go to 500. 493 is the 1618 on NVIDIA. We'll talk about that. We're going to do a follow-up option seminar in 2 weeks. So those that aren't set up, you got 2 more weeks. And everyone that'll come back in 2 weeks will have a much better understanding of how this stuff unfolds, comes together, capitalize on it. Before I go any further, let me take a couple questions. Let me come back, and a bunch of questions coming in here. Comments. Appreciate it. I think the place everyone should hook up with going forward is get into the gold section on our Discord and start, following the stuff that I'm posting real time. Look at the timestamps and look at the follow-ups. Pretty good response from everybody. Patrick and Pete, what's up, Pete? Dustin. Awesome, great. Thanks, Pete. Yes, you did. Dustin was asking, he missed my explanation on the expiration date. Would you choose on a day trade like today? Like I said, I'm looking at weekly options. Okay, the 0 DTEs, the daily expirations, not so much, because I think the bigger moves that we're getting are stuff like what we've seen in NVIDIA, Microsoft Qs with those setups. And we're not going to have those kind of setups all the time, every day. Believe me, we'll get a couple every week. It seems like the major ones have been good lately, where we get 2 solid setups a week, even going into the playing really for the Friday expiration. This is about as good as it can be. So, and also for strike price, we're looking for those strike prices that are 1 to 3 beyond the current setup. Actually, today is it's probably still valid because it's the last day of the month, last day of the quarter. I'm looking for things that'll move into the second half of the afternoon. And we could say, hey, why wouldn't, here's Microsoft. All right, that's already moved. It's up 3 or 4 right off the open, but how high are we going to go? Right now, you're hitting a hop level with some confirmation, but we could get some good movement into the afternoon. Maybe we get a little pullback and then down. I'm gonna keep my eye on this. The morning open is still playing out, almost an hour and a half later. A couple of more. Let's go back to NVIDIA, because that's, just look at that. Yeah, NVIDIA, actually, let's go to NVIDIA. Why not? Look at this. I mean, forget the 410s and 420s. Why not the 430s on something like NVIDIA for today? Is that crazy? I don't think so. Up 16. Anything here? Just ripping. 425s. Amazing. There's that Gartley way back there. I would think this is still trending higher until you register your next 5-minute. Let me show you really quick the e-signal option screen here. So here's the e-signal platform, and here's the option chain. There's NVIDIA. Okay, great, NVIDIA. the weekly, oh, not the Julys. I want the Junes, just June. And you can select it. So, and let's look at anything in the 430s by the close today. Maybe we go up 20, 30. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about also. So here's today's expirations. The 410s at 8,000, 9,000 volume. The 420s, 52,000. 425, 63,000. The 430s, 33,000. Those are asking 65 cents. Nice. Let me get a chart off of that. Let's see if there's anything in the NVIDIA 330s. 430s, excuse me. And that's a way to maybe look at a daily option expiration, but I really favor those dailies on like a Friday. Yikes, look at that 430s. Now you had clear patterns in the 410s and the 420s, and those were 1 to 3 strikes out. This was 5 strikes out and pretty ugly, but same deal. You had patterns. You clearly had patterns on there. Let's see what happens. I'm nothing really. I don't want to chase anything. If we got a little pullback intraday, maybe I would look at that with some time to enough time and liquidity to trade some of these positions. I'm not going to chase anything. Apple might be one that has more follow through as well, but big winners on all of those. Huge. Couple of more questions. James is asking, do the 5-minute patterns normally form at the open or could be a couple of hours after as well? Great question. Typically what we're seeing is, you get, when you have a type 2 phenomenon, a lot of times patterns might have a retest where it's down on the open, like on a Friday or even a Thursday, doesn't matter. And you don't notice it, but you're retesting a pattern. And it does happen a lot on the open. Whatever the pattern, if it's bullish or bearish, doesn't matter. You seem to be doing that, and you could do it in the pre-market as well, and it would still be valid. Yesterday, the patterns we had, which were type 2s on the option, and we didn't really have a type 1 on the, we only had a type 1 on the 5-minute, but they were both in a position where targeting for the next day's expiration is, I think, really what you want. I mean, you want the most time as long as it's running. And a lot of times, if you get a real strong Friday like today, we do have a chance where you could run strong into the close. But this also gets back to our interest is only getting, we want to get 50, 60% of the total move and be really happy. Even if we only got 20 or 30% of the total move, we're still doing the job. That's why partial execution, partial trade management goes a long way to being able to maximize that profit objective. If I sell half after it doubles and I let the other half ride for free, I don't, there's no worry about that other half because I know I got all my money back and I'm pure profit. And so NVIDIA's 424. How do I know if that's going to reverse and go back to 420 now or run all day and go to 430 or even higher? Because it could. I'm monitoring. I'm looking at what the market's doing. I'm looking at what this is doing. Nothing yet triggering up here that would say, hey, NVIDIA's run for today is done. This is where framework and understanding of confirmation strategies goes a long way. But simple things like, hey, look, we're headed back up into the zone. You're still riding that 5-minute trend line. Wait for that thing to break. Try to give it more time. But again, we're not never displeased if we reach our minimum objectives and maximum objectives. This is the kind of the top line, so you can temper expectations. If we reach a 5x on the option premium, that's probably about it, even if it goes to 10x. If you go from $1 to $5, that's probably the most of what you'll see in general. If it goes to 10 or $15, NVIDIA is doing it now. The NVIDIA, those 410s are amazing. Microsoft, the calls that were 25 cents, they went 10x. There's the Microsoft calls. They were 35 cents. Okay, there's an HSI signal. First one at 275. You're 224. From the close yesterday, you're 10x. If you got 5x, you're doing your job. And I think that's also something where people get too caught up, because options can give you phenomenal moves, and then you get real salty about missing that move. Really critical to understand this type of thinking, not getting salty, not just dwelling on what you do, what you can define, and how you execute that definition. This is all bonus, but from here to here, you're selling half. And then the rest on the other half, that's your bonus. And I just implore people to take that approach, because over time, it becomes an easier way to handle these markets and this type of price action. So there are limits. Look, as amazing as these trades were, how all of these trades played out, and this was my goal for this seminar session, to show you guys real trades. The 3 trades here that I posted yesterday were all home runs, but that also tells you the kind of thing that's available here. It takes a little work. Just get set up, get a little experience, and you follow along with the stuff that I will continue to post in the Discord. Couple more questions. Let's see here. Ivan wants to look at Netflix. Netflix was another one that we had posted. There was actually, look at that, plus 14. Are you kidding me? Here's Netflix from earlier in the week, all the way back here. Where was that? Oh yeah, down here earlier in the week, a couple of 5-minute patterns at 418, but Netflix was an hourly. Check this. Netflix, look at this hourly. Oh. So talk about your 60-minute phenomenon. That's exactly it. I know I posted that. I think it was Monday or Tuesday. This completed on Tuesday. You were 413. So imagine being 2-3 strikes out. Imagine buying the 425s and you go to 435, 440. But still, Netflix in play. That's not going to change. And Netflix, our longer term objectives are 500 for Netflix. That's a good one. Yes, Pete, perfect. Right on. Exactly. We are focusing on, ideally, those type 2 scenarios on the 5-minute, like the QQQ, Pete was responding to someone, but we had that QQQ down here in the 5 minute. It's a retest of the shark. We had patterns in the options. Those are my drawings from yesterday, and the original posts are in the Discord. Check that out. What's up, Wolf? Which option strategies works well with harmonics? Bullish bat, or do I need to create a bull call spread? Okay. Excellent question in terms of spreads and spread premiums. Those are more advanced strategies. And if you understand those strategies, especially you folks that are with Tasty Trade, because those guys are probably the tops in terms of retail option knowledge, it works on the spreads. I've done some work years ago with a buddy of mine doing harmonics on natural gas spreads. And yeah, it's definitely top level advanced stuff, but it's not required. And I think being able to do straight off put call directional positions because you get your analysis right, if you can master that, then you'll do well. And then if you're going to analyze those spread premiums, it's the same. You apply the same techniques. I just the spreads, I think for what I do, my style, I just prefer to do straight out directional positions. But check it out. Absolutely check out those charts. James is asking me again, what do I use for trading, like for option tools? I said that when we started. I'm using TradingView primarily for the 5 minute patterns and the extended trading, extended hours trading. All the levels are pretty much uniform. For options, I'm using eSignal. Okay, that's through Interactive Data. It's a paid data source, but it's the best in my opinion. We have HSI arrows and the patterns for the option contracts. And I use Thinkorswim. Now, we do have HPC to identify patterns, and you could use that for Thinkorswim as well.
Scott, I think we've lost audio.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot. Great. We're back. What I was saying is we can set 5 minutes, 5 minute time frame for the charts, for the patterns, and use that as a primary way to scan. Now that's the eSignal platform. I did want to highlight that we can get for eSignal, excuse me, for TradingView, we have the screeners, and you can do the same thing on the screener here. You can set it up. This is set up for crypto, but you can set it up for your top 5. And let me show you this. So set it up an entire window, and this feature is available on TradingView. Let me go here. Let's take that out. And this is the principal way to run the patterns for the 5-minute charts. Go to your settings, and you can list it all there. Put up Microsoft and the like. Tesla. Let's just do it. I'll do it now, so show you guys how I'd set up the screener. And do the top 10. I mean, these 10 are probably sufficient. Just go through QQQ, the SPY, Microsoft, Tesla, Meta, Netflix. I mean, beyond that, with all of those, you should be seeing at least one opportunity per day in this group, if not more like 2. And I think each one of them has been providing, 2 a week. NVIDIA, Meta. Did I do Tesla already? Yeah, I did Tesla. Oh, Amazon. Although that's yet to move. I mean, really move. Apple. And see what you have. I mean, I think that shows it even better. There you go. That's for TradingView, folks. And then go and save it. Save your layout. I think that's important. And then follow along. Again, this is eSignal. eSignal is just presentation-wise, they're able to have a nicer illustration, nicer interface. But same type of deal. You can set alerts once you have that set up. That's that's the follow-up. Right click, add alert. Okay, check that out. The same goes for the TradingView platform once you set up that the screener. A few more. Hey, Samuel, am I using conditional orders to automatically close the option or manage manually? I think for half, okay, as I said, if you're going to start out, just trade 2 contracts. That's fine. And set 1 contract at target 2. I'd be fine with that even as an early strategy. Okay, but if you're in front of your screen, and this is why, probably the only difference that you would not execute automatically is that you're in front of your screen and you have a huge move early in the day. But automatically, especially within the first 10 or 15 minutes of some kind of major market move like that, you'd want out. You want to be aggressive in the management, and you're fine with leaving this amount on the table for half. Just in theory. That's how you need to be thinking. Options will mess with your head. They will mess with your head in ways where you'll think I coulda, shoulda, woulda. That's why I say that. James is asking, what are the F420 options? I don't know what that is. Can I execute execution options from eSignal. I don't know. I think well, I do know that you can import their data into other platforms. So that, like a third-party feed, that might be a better way to do it. Bird Dog's asking, am I using amplified and HSI indicators in the option charts? Yes, I'm looking at HSI and looking at amplified RSI. I mean, this is a good example. I think I'm using more, just to kind of share with you, amplified RSI as a confirming factor for HSI and for a trade management tool. I mean, if we have an early move like this, like we had this morning, big explosion. So we know, and we have to be out by today. I mean, you have to be out by 4 o'clock. So how much do you need? Your 30 cents, 35 cents, the $3 is your range so far. Now you're 190. I got to think somewhere between $2 and $3, you're done. And if you haven't gotten out, you're still getting out. But one way to look at that, and the 5-minute time frame, it's why it's so telling. I mean, once you roll over and crack down, that's a great way to be looking at amplified RSI as where what that's telling you is that extreme reading is done. A few more. Op7's asking, have you used harmonic patterns to trade options on futures? Or is it preferable to have underlying be limited to equities only? I don't. There's no difference. I think it all comes down to liquidity. So, do you have enough open interest? Is there, you have a few thousand options getting traded in whatever the market is? I think that's important. Now, some of the stuff I'll talk about in the next options session in 2 weeks, where lower volume is a consideration, I'll address that. But just for now, stick with the biggest option markets, biggest underlying stocks and ETFs. QQQ, SPY, and the others I mentioned. Netflix 413. Yep. James is saying normal puts and calls give you the maximum gains. Yeah, and the spreads. Look, there's a lot to be said for spread trading. I know a lot of successful spread traders, and it's extremely accurate, but it's complicated, and you need to have that understanding. But what I'm trying to show is more from a harmonic pattern perspective. We're already looking at patterns. We're looking at, we're scouring stocks, looking at future prices. But what we're looking for, that low capital investment, 1 to 5x possibility in a relatively short period of time, gives us what I think is a unique combination of market opportunities. Here's Microsoft right now, the 340s. Could we get to 345? What's the 345 chart look like? We're coming up to the midday, and this is a typical Friday. Why I wanted to do Friday is because we tend to get your biggest opportunities Thursday going into Friday. And, even if you missed a Thursday setup, a lot of time Friday mornings will give you some positions that can move just as much as an overnight move. Microsoft, those are the 345s. They're only 17 cents. Nothing really there. What you're looking for is the market just to continue for the rest of the day. I mean, S&P is now plus 50. Why not go to 60? And the QQQ is about to jump back to 370. Why not the QQQ go to 371, 372 by the close? We're not even 12 noon. There you go. Amazing. Look at those patterns. What do the futures look like? In Q futures, Wow. NQ futures just flashed a 5-minute continuation signal. That's a good sign, folks. Again, let's keep an eye on this. I think we could get back to 370. You're currently 345. And that's just on a retest of today's high. Interesting. What's that 60-minute look like? That's strong stuff. Yikes. Coming up on almost 11:15, like I said, I'm going to take this option discussion till noon. I'm going to see if we can find maybe one or two new option trades, literally day trades that satisfy what we're looking for. And it's probably good to go through it because you might not, it's a good mental exercise of how do we find the opportunities? We're 4 or 5 hours left in the day. Where could the opportunities be? I think, look, why not? Your hourly NQ is just super strong. I would have to see where this closes at the top of the hour here. But certainly you get above 370, 380. That continues. Nothing to stop that until the 886. And that's at 450. Could we go 100 higher today and retest the 886? That's at 15,420, folks. I don't think that's out of the question. And this is where then, okay, break it down. QQQ. What could the QQQ do? Can we get a signal, on the 5-minute here? Oh, let's get another Q there. Nothing really, nothing yet. Look at the 30-second time frame. Interesting. We had a 30-second crab pattern. I'll come back to that. I do think that might be possible. Market would finish up incredibly strong, but Qs are up 6 right now. Why not go up +8, +10? Let's see what happens. All right, couple more. Let's get back. Let's finish up on some more questions. Do I prefer eSignal or Thinkorswim? I enjoy having them both. I really do. No, that's okay. Thanks, Pete. I appreciate that. Futures, look, futures is a great market, but I think it's better suited for day trading because if you get some kind of overnight craziness, you get a 50-point S&P swing, that's difficult. Look at this QQQ. I think we got to look at. We need to size up. Look, this just went to 370. I think it could go to 371. What about the Qs? Wow. What about the 345s in Microsoft? Okay, folks, 30-second chart, Microsoft. That's interesting. 14 cents, 345. Wow. Let's look at Microsoft. 341. Would have to rally $3.50 just to get in the money. But check it out. All right, let's see what happens. I mean, Microsoft's flashing a 5-minute HSI signal that's counter to the bearish pattern. Well, that's really chasing it up there. Keep an eye out. I would prefer if that came back in a type 1 reaction. This is something we see a lot during the week. Let's say it's like a Monday or Tuesday. A lot of times you get like a bearish pattern, and then you come back, profit take that, and then midday do the return move. Sometimes even back-to-back patterns in a lot of instances. It's just this morning has been so explosive that you might just kind of hang up here into the Friday close. A few more. Got it. Do I ever use trailing stops? With the options, more like trailing management because I know the stop pretty much on the option premium. I'll allow if I get down to 50% drawdown. Probably not, I'm probably in the wrong spot if that happens or I'm early, but I'm also I'm not entering all at once either. So it's more of like a collective entry and then manage it. If it doesn't work out, yeah, then I'll scalp out usually within the same day. Definitely by the next day if it doesn't work out. This is a crazy type 2 on the 345s on Microsoft. The market would have to absolutely rip this afternoon. Like I said, it's not even 12 noon. But you got things like S&P's up 48, change, Apple's up 3 at 192.63. Tesla's up 630 at 263. Nvidia, up 1460 at 422. But I'm really want to stick more with the 5-minute patterns and emphasize the kind of 5-minute setups that I was presenting yesterday into today. Microsoft, say, the 340s. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, they're just holding up there. But notice that they're stalling out at the target 2 level, which was the original type 2. Look, this was the crab pattern, the type 1. We mentioned this when we started the session today. 220 should be the maximum objective from a hop level around 72. Couple more. Yeah, James, I agree with you. Thinkorswim has an excellent options execution platform, and I think do check that out. Do consider it. I don't. Some people are trading options on their phone. I don't know how they do that, but the execution platform really needs to be easy to be able to find strike prices, change your bids, change your entries and exits quickly. So I think Thinkorswim is a great platform to have, and TD is a great, bank to park money at, real safe. So I have an account there. A few more. PC Tower, how do you get that RSI BAM panel? You mean for TradingView? The TradingView, this is the scanner. I don't know if you could clarify that, but I walked through how to set up the scanner to get the 5-minute, if we want to look for 5-minute patterns, or we don't want to have to, fish around for 5-minute patterns. That's an easy way to do it. Microsoft, Nvidia, both 5-minute puts right now. Okay, Pete is saying that Microsoft and Nvidia both have 5-minute put opportunities at the moment. It's a pretty good thought. Because the market has been raging, and we really have been mostly long side. I mean, I've been mostly long side all year. But playing the puts after such a move, I think, if you have a setup, just like I said, let's say you have a 60-minute bearish signal, a bearish pattern, combined with a 5-minute, yeah, definitely. Let me see if I can get that. Something where's my, why can't I get that? There you go, it's a chart. Let's look. I'll see. What I'm looking at, Pete saying there's put harmonic patterns right now on NVIDIA 5-minute. So here are the puts. The 425 puts 365, 355. No confirmation. No real pattern either. Look, HSI maybe gonna confirm pretty soon on the 5-minute. You know, the put betting that it's going to go down. Now, again, it's not a bad thought, but do we have other bearish phenomenon on the stock? You know, Pete suggesting, hey, let's look at the puts after such a move. Maybe we're going to have some profit taking before the end of the day. Yeah, maybe. There's the 5-minute 420s. Okay, the right to sell it, NVIDIA at 420. It's now trading 422.72. Yeah, you have 5-minute confirmation, but you really don't link up properly with, I mean, that's kind of that's really is a failure. I mean, that's a definition of a failure. And look, you had a bearish pattern preceding that. But this is in any price action and harmonic pattern assessment. If you're going to retest your numbers, which you did here, and you gap right through, that's a definition of a failure. I mean, could we see a reaction off of there at 70, 80 cents? Maybe. Yeah, that could happen. But we're wanting only the best setups. We have to have the other pattern. I would want to see a bearish 60-minute phenomenon already completed, something that would tell me that that's more than a reaction. Yes, you could get a little blip reaction, but what we're really going for, okay, the combination of option and underlying with serious phenomenon where you're going to get a move. 15 minutes, someone's saying the 15-minute. Yeah, I'm on NVIDIA. Again, our identification time frame for this, really we want to see 5-minute time frame. We're going to see those best structures that kind of highlight the best moves. Like NVIDIA is printing a 5-minute, yikes, a bullish HSI on the 5-minute. I mean, it could do that. It's not going to be official until that next 5-minute bar. And so my point here is on your, what's your 5-minute time frame telling you? There's no bearish pattern. You have a bullish HSI developing at a high level, which is usually a continuation. So I don't want to fight that kind of stuff. I would want more concrete things coming together. That actually is, I think it's pretty interesting right now. And the hourly, look at your hourly stuff. Amazing. We got to target too. Hourly is overbought, but you know, trying to roll over. We get to the top of the hour in about 35 minutes. A few more. We've been going for a while here already. The SPY daily looks so bullish, says American Dream. Yeah. Yeah, look, the SPY, same deal. I think really the takeaway is that the stuff is moving. Forget last year. I mean, last year was like straight off puts for most of the year. Now we've been almost straight off calls for a lot of the year. But we will have plenty of time to capture the move. The comment is that the SPY daily, it looks incredibly bullish. And yeah, you're there, extremely overbought. They're on the, here's the daily. But look, that's remarkable. Look, we're doing a check back right now. Let's keep an eye on that for next week. I'll look at that next week. The high is 443.61. High so far 443.36. But the daily here, or sorry, weekly, is SPY is an all-time 886, and this is why I'm continuing to say this window that we have for the next, call it 4 to 6 weeks, is going to make a run at this 886 across the board. A lot of these, Apple breaking out, continues all-time new highs. Microsoft, same deal. Nvidia just annihilating everything. And then you have the SPY, which is its 886 is about 357. Okay, and then the real shark, which is the pattern that is coming together, we connect the dots, says it makes a run at the all-time new highs, and I don't think that's crazy. And that's somewhere around 470. So you're in that kind of spot after quite a run of trying to continue this first stop 886 and then, retest all-time new highs. But we'll get that acceleration and the kind of the spillover effect that that could happen in the next, I think, 6 weeks, and then back off. We do have this weekly check back. I talked about this yesterday, just from my identification perspective. There's HSI, bearish, first bearish in a while. We're checking back this week, but we're still 2 weeks away, 2 bearish weeks away from a yellow dot. So no yellow dot yet, or I'm not too concerned about that. And if we break out next week and follow through, remember it's a short week. Yeah, that seals the deal. I mean, I think it's already sealed that your yellow dot will come up here at the 886 area. That's more just identification, speculation, but our levels are pretty clear, and we've been talking about this for a while. Yeah, let me review. Lastly, I think in terms of the tools that everyone should get, let me go back and just highlight that frame. Everyone should be set up with TradingView. Okay, get the TradingView platform. I'm using that for identification for the stocks, mostly the 5 minutes. Then I'm running HPC eSignal for options, and I'm looking at the stocks too on that platform, but I like to compare them both. And then I used HPC on TD Ameritrade because I execute the trades on that platform. I execute the trades on Thinkorswim. And I'll look at the charts as well. I'm running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screens right now. I have 7 scattered, but I think most people have 2 or 3, which I recommend you have at least 2, where you can run multiple platforms. But that's what I'm using. If you want to get set up, again, any gold member, anybody that's in here, take the free trial and access the information on the gold members page for any of those programs. eSignal is a paid data source, but I think it's worth it. Where's that other one? Hold on. Hold up. Nice. Again, I do recommend multiple screens and multiple programs if you're going to go to this level. I see some of these young bucks who are trading they're trading options on phones. It blows my mind. If they can do it, more power to them. I could never do that. I would never attempt that. But go to the gold members page here, scroll it down, go to gold, scroll down and go to the gold section number 3. Here's the eSignal information. Click that link. And if you want to check out the other ones, I mean, MetaTrader, I know you can feed data, option data into that as well. And then again, the TD Ameritrade, is fun with Think Script. Fun with Think Script, and talk to Robert over there. There's a free trial for HPC. There you go for that, and I'll link it up. All right, get set up with that. Check that out. And if you have questions, contact us on the Discord. There you go. Click that link, and then that'll take you to get set up with our gold members. All right, let's see here. Yeah, it's starting to roll over a little bit. Yeah, Justin's asking really quick, can I look at the option calls? So remember, here's the option chain for eSignal. And yes, you can set these up into the monitor. Simply open up, if you're looking for a new one, go new. This is for eSignal option chain. Okay, and that'll bring up a new window, and then you change whatever symbol you're looking for. You know, if I'm looking for the QQQs or something like that, just type that in. And then eSignal has the monitor here for the patterns that you can set up to. For again, you just need to set up. You can set them up. I think week by week you can update the options, but you know, if you've got the patterns in the 5-minute, chances are then you scope it down to a more refined search. Like, all right, so the QQQ right now from yesterday, let me go to the 366s. That's what we were showing yesterday. Can I get that in a watch list? Yeah. And you could do it that way as well. Add it together. Oh, that's the put. My fault. Let me get the calls. What's going on there? Why is that coming up 240? Maybe highlight it better. There's 368s. Yeah. You know, that's probably done. Maybe you're right, Mr. Kennedy. Maybe those puts are the play. Maybe those puts are the play, but I don't have too many 5-minute bearish patterns yet coming together, actually linking up with 60-minute. You know, look at the SPY, 5-minute. Yeah, we're about to get, and this is a good thing to just bring this up, because we're about to get a yellow dot. We're going to check back of that HSI arrow with the SPY at 442. What about the Qs? And this is a good one, just hypothetically. I don't have a pattern here, but if I was looking for something, because someone was asking me how would I spot up a certain option or strike price. Let's say we had a pattern here, and I'm looking at like this HSI. We're checking back right now, little correction midday. Let's say we got a 5-minute yellow dot right here, and you're trading around 369. As I said, we're looking, if it's a short-term situation like right now, and even into the end of the close. I mean, we've got 4.5 hours until the market closes. So any Friday option expires today, expires in 4 hours. It has to do the move. I don't, I'm looking here because of that 5-minute time frame, and like I said, we're trading 369. So here's the 368s, or ideally, let's just say 369, that was the support level where I was targeting a reversal. I would probably look at the 370s, because if we're going to really capture a move here, and there's your 370, and we get into that, we can achieve at least one strike. That's where your premium can double. It doesn't happen all the time because of different prices and not always being in the same distance away from the next strike. But generally, if you're clicking for every strike, you can almost double. It's super generalized statement, but that's what I would be looking for. Right now, again, no yellow dot yet, but if I was looking in the 369 area, I would look at the 370s. And going over to e-signal here, then, pop up your option chain for the day. There's the 370s, and then, hey, let's look there. Tell me if there's any pattern, maybe create a watch list for the day, if you will. You can do that and then click your charts off of that. But anything on that 5-minute time frame that says, there's an opportunity there, I don't see anything yet in the option, and you do want it in both. But again, with only having 4 hours of expiration left in this contract, makes it tough. Be aware of that. That's something where I'd rather be in early in the morning. I'm looking to scale out or manage and be in on a Thursday, out on a Friday, or out or in early on a Friday morning, out Friday late afternoon, something like that. Should we buy puts into the monthly close at the very end? Why would you? Why would you do anything without a 5-minute setup and 5-minute option pattern? I mean, you have to have these conditions together. That's the only way I do it. I mean, it's the only way I can identify that stuff. NVIDIA, Microsoft, the QQQs from yesterday, they all had multiple pattern situations there that were, huge, obvious for us that, we're harmonic traders. We look at that stuff all day long. You see 3 patterns in multiple charts. You're saying to yourself, okay, wow, there's really something there. I mean, again, go back. This is where we started today. Okay, and this was stuff, go back. Here was NVIDIA from yesterday. And there's the, clear patterns. We want option patterns like that. That was yesterday. Okay, those traded as high as 14. The 420s. Okay, went from 60 to 4 or $5. But they're huge concrete patterns that have completed. They've got confirmation. That's what you want to see. And we had, remember, the 5-minute opportunity, the 5-minute pattern in NVIDIA yesterday. What'd that trade? Like 406, as low as 406. I mean, so you go from 406 to almost 20, low to high, from yesterday to today. That's how you capture those. But you have to have multiple things. I mean, Pete suggested that, and then you're saying, okay, why don't we just buy puts because the market's up? Yeah, maybe the market's overextended, but I don't have anything that defines that trade opportunity. Microsoft rolling back over. Yep. And that could come all the way back to 35 cents. Huge move, huge 8, 10x move. Oh, well, now it's only 3x or almost 2x. So you guys also get the gist of the reactionary treatment required. Beautiful trade. Awesome. Amazing. But we know it expires Friday. And even, you could go simple trend line violation and you're done. And even if you sold it up in here on the trend line violation, that's fine. You might say, oh, I left $1 on. No, you got out from 50 cents to $2. That's how to be thinking on this. No clear multiple pattern relationships, no trade. So we're not forcing it. That's that really the thing I'm saying. Not forcing it. Like, again, go back to this position on Nvidia where that was a type 1 and our expectation was to go from hop level ABCD to minimum 109, and we treat it as such, but it exploded and continued higher all the way through. What was the other one? Sorry. Yeah, the 410. And we're looking for that to go somewhere around 270 to 395, $4. It went to 13. But again, that's the short-lived reaction. It's probably rolled over by now. Yeah, Nvidia's plus 12. There's the 410s. So absolutely explosive move this morning, but you're done. Again, you could be done half the contracts at $6, $7, $8. It's more than doubled. Once you're more than doubled, you could sell half on the first sign, first bearish candle, first HSI signal, first violation of whatever that crazy uptrend is. All right? Be aware of it. That's how it goes. And in the beginning of this presentation, I said that if you get an option premium to move 5x within that 1 week window, that's probably the max you can get. And you really should be looking to sell beyond that 5x. I mean, under any circumstance. Yeah, you'll see this time and time again. The more experience you get with these, and I recommend, as I said in the beginning, you take that time. You give yourself that time. Take the next 2 weeks and get ready for what's about to come, which like I said, right around the 10th, the 12th, we're going to get into full earnings season and off we go, where we're going to see a lot of these moves. A lot. QQQ BAM on the 15-minute. Yeah, rolling back over. No pattern, no 5-minute anything. For me, I'm pretty much done. After yesterday and this morning, I'll look for another opportunity. I'm not really looking for, on the put side, because pretty much, did my work that I had to do yesterday, and I don't have any patterns, even though, yeah, okay, profit taking, sure. But I don't have anything that would say, all right, time to dump, time to get out. Even looking at the futures chart, what's up here? Anything? Nope. We failed that 5-minute. But I still don't have a pattern. And that's all right. You have to have the pattern with the confirmation on both the 5-minute, underlying, and options. Let's see here. SPY now only up 40. The Qs, they were up 6. Now they're up 460, 470. Maybe you get something. We're still 15 minutes till 12 noon, top of the hour. And my objective is, so I think I'm going to take a break. Let me do one more thing. I'm going to do a quick kind of wrap up conclusion of everything we've been talking about here. So think about these kind of final points for this first option strategy seminar. So everything we're doing is within the framework, harmonic pattern framework. As I was just saying, we're looking for the opportunities that have the clear pattern phenomenon that have already completed. So I was just saying with put options for today, we don't have any bearish patterns, so nothing. We just let it go. Our execution objective, as I've said, enter the trade positions after the pattern is completed, those type 2s, especially on the 5-minute, where the early change in price action has already been realized and that acceleration of that new price segment has begun. And finally, we don't need to catch the absolute bottoms and tops in the stocks. We do in the option price, but that's why the option pattern, the pattern in the option chart is so choice. It gives us that opportunity. It gives us that optimization to get in on the move at that final point. But we still are only looking for the meat of the move. Capturing those harmonic price segments from our level, whatever it is, the PRZ zone, confirmation zone to a target, and anything is bonus. Remember, we go 1x and above, we're looking to take half off. If we get explode through our targets, you're still looking to take half off every time and let the other half ride for free. And once you get, if your option premium is 5x within this time frame, like a 5-day window, you're done. Remember those parameters. Look, that's as critical or more critical than crypto, stocks. I mean, futures, we kind of need to think this way as well. All right. We might get some kind of opportunity with this type of pullback. It's nice to see it. Little profit taking. Let me see if really quick, what I want to do for the rest of the time, go through a few of the big ones, Meta, Netflix, maybe some things we haven't looked at. Let's see if we can find some midday opportunities. Hopefully like a yellow dot on the QQQ. Yeah, maybe on the 5-minute down here. See, there you go. All right, it just went into that next 5-minute bar, but we need the candle. So you need one more green candle, and we could potentially have a midday dot. Yeah, you see that? It's trying to form. But we're early. Let's go back. We were looking at the 370s. That still might be viable. Let me see here. Let me see if I can find that. 370s? No. Trying to flash something right now on the 5-minute, but still early. So wait. So this is a good time to take a break. Let's come back in about 10 minutes. And I'll go for one more hour. I'm going to stop the recording for now. And then let's see if we can fish out, one or two opportunities into the close. Something where we can catch it, execute it between now and 1 o'clock, and be in a spot where we can ride it. Like I said, I don't really see too many bearish patterns popping on the screen just now. But things like Microsoft and Netflix, yeah, they're off their highs. All right, there's there's one. There's a deep crab on Microsoft. Maybe 337. Yeah, that could be a good one. So let's come back in 10 minutes. We'll look at that. And then talk a little bit about the next session. All right? Nice, Pete. Nice. Yep. All right, take a break. 10 minutes. I'll be back. Top of the hour. Thanks.